Hello everyone, it's Michelle Lupton here and welcome to a very special video hop. We are hopping today to celebrate a birthday, and that birthday is Erica's. So Erica Anderson Burke, otherwise known as Erica Kaka Craft, I love that name, celebrated a birthday in May. And so she has invited a whole bunch of friends to make some videos showing how they made some birthday cards. And of course, it's a birthday card in honour of Erica, so I had to make it a rainbow birthday card. I also decided to use a variety of different products from different companies today, just because I could. So I'm starting with some Strathmore Bristol cardstock because I am going to be using some water. And I'm starting with the bold prints stamp from Hero Arts. It's called Positive Script. It's from their recent release. And it's really, really cool. It's just got all this beautiful sort of scripty font, and it's a whole lot of sort of positive affirmation kind of statements on it. So things like there is no limit to what you can accomplish, and great things take time, and you've got this. Things like that. It's really cool. Okay, so I've stamped that onto my piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock and stamped it with Versamark ink and then covered it with some white embossing powder from Hero Arts and melted that embossing powder with my heat tool. Now I'm cutting this panel down to be the same size as my card front that I'm going to put onto, but later on I'm actually going to cut it down a little bit further, just spoiler alert. And now I'm just cutting out some of these gorgeous fancy feathers using dies from Gina Designs. Now at the moment you can see that I've just cut one of each of these feathers, and I've just popped out all the little bits, the confetti from the middle, but later on I actually go back and cut out some more. Now with this panel, I wanted one, there to be a rainbow, and two, for it to be shiny. So I am using my Nuance powders, which are very, very bright and colourful. But I'm also going to be spraying this panel with Perfect Pearls mixed with water. I'm starting by spraying the panel just with water. So I've actually got two of these spray bottles. One of them just has plain tap water in it, and the other one has plain tap water with a sort of spoonful of Perfect Pearls. Now I'm also spraying the back of the panel so that it'll flatten out a little bit, because I find that when I spray a panel with lots of water to get the colour to flow a bit, if it's warped, it just flows where you don't necessarily want it to go. So spraying it on the back can help that stay a little bit more flat. So you can see I've added my red, orange and yellow, and I'm just spraying a little bit with the Perfect Pearls in water, adding the rest of my colours, so the green, blue and purple down the bottom. Again, spraying with my Perfect Pearls in water. And I found that there were so many little sort of spots of colour that were intense that I couldn't really make out the text at all. And I don't want the text necessarily to be that legible. It's just meant to be a background. But in some parts, you couldn't even tell that it was text. So I've taken my paintbrush and I'm spreading the water out just a little bit. I still want there to be sort of intense areas of colour and not so intense areas of colour, but I want there to be colour all over. Okay, so I just used my paintbrush to do that, and then I'm using my heat tool to dry it, not forgetting to dry the back to try and flatten it out as well. All right, so now that's all nice and dry and you can see how shiny it is. I'm just cutting off a little bit, about 1/4 inch on the top and 1/4 inch on the side approximately, so that I'll have a border around the whole panel of white on my card front. A border of about 1/8 inch approximately. Okay, so there is my background done. I'm just going to use some tape runner adhesive to adhere this, and that'll be ready to go. All right, so now as you can see above my card on my work surface here, you can see I've actually already cut out my extra feathers. And the reason I did this is because I thought just putting the feathers on top, they won't stand out enough, and I want them to really stand out. So I layered up each one with 3 layers, and you can see I'm not going to actually show you how I added the adhesive to every single one, because that would be deadly boring. You don't want to see that. So I'm just showing you this one. And I'm just going to add that on, make sure it's all lined up. And what I do tend to find is I am terrible at adding too much adhesive. So I had to go around and just remove little excess bits of adhesive so that it didn't have globby bits sticking out the side. Now, sometimes I can just do that with my fingers, but sometimes I actually grab my tweezers and just run along the inside edges of the shapes just to get rid of those excess little bits of glue. And then, of course, I clean off the tips of my tweezers so they don't stick together. All right, so now they're a little bit more chunky, and I'm laying them out onto my card front just to decide what arrangement I'd like. And then I'm going to think about my sentiment. Now, I already knew that I wanted to use the Yana's Layered Script Sentiments from Spellbinders, but I didn't quite know at this stage what I was going to add with it. I didn't really want to have both of the words happy and birthday in a scripty font or a scripty typeface. I tend to like sentiments that have a mixture of typefaces or fonts. I quite like it when one is sort of a block script and one of them is a bit more cursive. I also like it if one's in uppercase and one's in lowercase, just like the mixture. I think it looks a bit more interesting. Anyway, I cut this from black cardstock from Hero Arts, and I do find that when I cut very, very fine die cuts, you sometimes get little nubbly bits all along the edges. So I've just taken a little sanding block here and turned the die cut over and just sanded on the back of it to get rid of those little knobbly bits. It just, it's a little finishing touch that does make a big difference when you've got your finished card. Now, one thing that you do find, or I do find, is that doing that sanding can sometimes deform the shape of the die cut because it's so fine. It's really, really easy to bend it. But the good thing about these is they are layering dies. So we've got a background or a shadow for that word to actually sit onto. And that really helps because you can basically put it right back into the correct shape onto its shadow, and you'd never know that it was bent out of shape. Okay, so I decided to finish this off. I would pull out a little sentiment strip that I'd already stamped and white embossed onto black cardstock. And this is from Tailored Expressions. It's the On Repeat Birthday. It's a really cool little set. They have numerous sets like this where they have 8 stamps of the same word. It's actually on one stamp. And you stamp it all together, and then there's a die that cuts all 8 out all at once. And some of them it cuts out with banner edges, and sometimes it just cuts it out with just a rectangle around it. I decided that I wanted it to be a little bit narrower, so you saw me cutting off the edges, the top edge and the bottom edge of that birthday. And now I'm ready to assemble my card. So I've stuck my first feather down. I'm just holding it in place with my Share Handmade Kindness paperweight there from Bossy Jossie. Absolutely love that paperweight. I really need to get another one so I can actually cover the whole front of a card all at once. There's me nearly dropping the glue bottle, as happens every 5 minutes. Anyway, just finishing off, making sure that I actually do have glue right around the edge, but a few little spots here and there in the middle. And then I can start thinking about my sentiment. Now, because the sentiment is going to sit up on top of one of those feathers, and the feathers are 3 pieces of cardstock thick. So some bits of the sentiment are just going to be floating in midair. So I'm pulling out some foam adhesive, some little foam, not rectangles, little hexagons, and I've cut some of them in half and cut little strips so that the floaty bits of the sentiment are no longer floating. so they've actually got something behind them. Because if I decide I want to send this card in the mail, I don't want it to get squished and all horrible. I want it to, yeah, have a little bit of sturdiness to it. Same thing with this little black birthday sentiment. I just needed a little bit at the end. I added a little bit of the foam adhesive, ended up not being in exactly the right spot, so I moved it. Still was not exactly in the right spot, so I tried to move it, wasn't working, so I actually had to take it off, cut it in half, and then try again, and eventually we got there. So yeah, cards never actually turn out exactly the way I want them to, and there's always hiccups along the way. All right, so now my card is almost done, almost, but I wasn't quite sure if this sentiment was actually stuck on right, if it was actually straight on the card. So I pulled out my trusty T-square ruler just to make doubly sure that it was exactly straight, and then I was happy with the card. So thank you very, very much for watching my video today. I hope you continue on and watch all of the videos in the hop for Erica. I mean, it's a hop for Erica. It's going to be fun and it's going to have some cool stuff in it. So make sure you follow along. And I hope you have fun doing that. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.